Hey guys, Miss J here with another weekly review. So this is your week 14 review over, again, Congress. So we are continuing with our lesson on Congress. So I am just going to be covering some of the new stuff you covered this past week. I have a little bit of review just so you can have a refresher, and then we'll dive right into it. So starting off, remember that Congress is split up into two parts, the House and the Senate. And so some of the main differences between the two is in the House of Representatives, it's a 2-year term. It's got 435 members. So again, that's based off of population. The more populated your state is, the more districts you can have, the more members you can have in the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives is more centralized. It's got a lot of power in its leaders, and it has a lot of emphasis on committees. And we're going to get a little bit more into committees this week than we have in the past. The House initiates impeachment proceedings, and it is led by the Speaker of the House. And then the Senate, this is the 6-year term with 100 members. So all states, no matter their size, get 2 members to serve in the Senate. They offer advice and consent to the president. This is where you learned about the cool thing about filibusters. And then the Senate tries the impeached officials. And then it is led by the majority leader. So let's get a little bit more into that leadership. So this is the House of Representatives, and this is their leadership. It is led by the Speaker of the House, which is Nancy Pelosi at the moment. They are a very, very powerful person. They are third in line to the president. They preside over the House floor, and they have a lot of power because they get to decide which bills are going to which committees and what bills are going to be introduced. So a very powerful person that impacts a lot of legislation in the United States. And then next is the majority leader. So the Speaker of the House always comes from the majority party, but their job is not to be the majority leader of the party. So that they also there is also a majority leader in the House. So the majority leader right now is Representative Steny Hoyer. And this person is just the kind of person that watches over the majority party. Remember, the majority party is the House or the political party that has more members in the House of Representatives at that time. The minority party is the party that has less members in the House of Representatives. So the majority leader represents the majority party on the House floor, and it kind of keeps the members of the political party in line. And then the majority leader and the minority leaders also have majority whips. So majority whips is James Clyburn, and they just kind of assist their leaders. And their job is to count votes and kind of corral or gather up members of their party to make sure that they are going to vote alongside party lines. And then moving on to House leadership, moving on to minority leadership. So like I said, this person just represents the party that has less members in the House at the time. And so that is Representative Kevin McCarthy. He is from the Republican Party. So the Republicans at the moment have less members in the House of Representatives. And his job is just to, again, watch over the minority party, the Republicans. He's kind of their spokesperson. Leader of the minority party on the House floor. And then he's got a whip as well. So that's the minority whip, and that is Steve Scalise. And again, it is just his job to assist the minority leader, corral those votes, gathers up the members of the party, make sure they are voting alongside those party lines. Let's go into Senate leadership. So Senate leadership, you've got the president of the Senate, the president pro tempore, the Senate majority leader, the Senate minority leader, and then you've got a minority whip and a majority whip. So starting off, president of the Senate, that is the vice president, so that is Mike Pence at the moment. It's very ceremonial. He cannot vote. He can vote. He can cast a tie vote, but he cannot speak on the floor. It's not his position to influence other senators. Very ceremonial, just to cast a tie vote. And he's honestly not in the Senate very often. And when he is not in the Senate, that is when the president pro tempore steps in. So that is Chuck Grassley. He's a Republican. It comes from the majority party, and the president pro tempore is the longest residing senator at the time from the majority party. And so they sit in place of the VP when the VP is not there. Again, though, the president pro tempore is a regular member of the Senate, though, so they can still participate in debates, cast votes, everything like that. They just sit in place of the VP when he's not there. And then you got the majority leader. The majority leader is who really holds the power in the Senate. And they are also, again, a very, very powerful person in our government. And at the moment, that is Mitch McConnell. So they get to begin debates, and they're in charge of assigning committees. And they are, again, also a spokesperson for their party on that Senate floor. So and the reason why that's so important is because they get to assign who goes to what committees. They do have to work with the Senate minority leader, but ultimately they have the upper hand. So then the minority leader. So that again works on behalf of the minority party. So in this case, it is the Democrats. The Republicans have control of the Senate at the moment. There is currently a race still going on in Georgia to decide who their senator is going to be, and that will be the tipping scale of whether or not the Republicans stay in power in the Senate, or if it becomes a Democratic majority. So that's kind of interesting. You can follow along with that in the news. But the minority leader, currently a Democrat, and they just assist the majority leader in assigning committees, and they speak on behalf of the Democrats on the floor. And then the minority and majority whips do very similar things as the ones in the House. So they assist their leaders, and they're supposed to count votes again and kind of make sure that their members of their party are voting with party. So we've talked a lot about committees. And so I wanted to show you the House committees and the Senate committees before we went into them. You by no means have to have these all memorized. I do not have them memorized. There's 28 committees in the House, 24 committees in the Senate. But I just wanted you to be able to see some of the things that committees are in charge of. So you can see agriculture, education, ethics, homeland security, veterans affairs. So those are the House committees. And then the Senate committees, like I said, there's 24 of them at the moment. You can see a lot of them again: agriculture, budget, energy, environment, just some of the things that these committees are in charge of. So let's get into what even are committees. Committees are groups of either representatives, if it's in the House of Representatives, or senators in the Senate, and they represent one of the interests, like I showed you: energy, education, agriculture. And that's where bills go that deal with those issues. So if a bill is introduced that has to do with agriculture, it is going to go to the Agriculture Committee. If it has to do with education, the Education Committee, things like that. They are really important to passing bills in both the House and the Senate. And there's a couple different kinds of committees. There's called standing committees, and these are permanent committees, and there's 20 in both the House and the Senate. But you're thinking, wait a second, I thought there was 28 committees in the House, 24 in the Senate. There are. There's also things called joint committees. And joint committees are ones that have members of both the House and the Senate in them. So at the moment, there are 4 joint committees, so 4 in each House, and they have members from both the Senate and House. And then there's some temporary committees, which you can see as the House as well, to make up for the rest of those. And so committees, who serves on them very much reflects the majority and minority parties of the House and Senate floor. So in the House, committee members are proportional to the number of Democrats and Republicans in the House. So if it is 1/3 Republicans in the House, 2/3 Democrats, then each committee is going to be made up of 1/3 Republican, 2/3 Democrats. I just made up those numbers. I do not know the actual proportions of how the House is set up at the moment, but that is essentially what it means. It just means that the number serving in the committee is proportional to the number serving in the actual House. And then the Senate, the chair of the committee comes from the majority party. So the person overseeing the committee will come from the majority party in the Senate. So like I said, those are really influential in passing bills because it's who is more specialized in those certain areas. And, it has to get passed through those committees in order to be reintroduced back into the floor. So again, those are just a couple new concepts you guys learned about this week about Congress. Again, if you have any questions, please always reach out. If you had any questions about assignments, and please fill out the chart of things you understood from this video, things you still need help with, and I will be more than happy to link you with new resources, try and give a new explanation, anything I can do to help out in those gray areas. Thanks.